Okay, so welcome to the startup or the it's preliminary for doing a retreat of Yamantaka. And again, because for some of you this is the very first retreat, and especially with the tantric deity, I want to emphasize it's mostly just getting familiar or getting a connection. It's like before I ever met any of you, or let's say we emailed a little bit. So we established a little bit of a connection. So the same thing applies to this, is that you're just getting to meet or to know a little bit of Yamantaka. Now, each one of you is different. Some of you might have like a strong karma, so you might have stronger experiences, other ones not. That's perfectly acceptable. The main point is that for this retreat, you're going to get more connected with Yamantaka. Very good. Okay. So that's like being like all the details of the sadhana and such. If you study, you can start to get more familiar, but don't put that as the emphasis. More just focus on the recitation of the mantras and trying to have a feeling for Yamantaka. You could say it this way, that in the outside world there are Yamantakas, but I mean not like some being walking around with arms and legs like that, but someone with the realization of what Yamantaka is, which is the defeating of mundane death, wisdom, understanding reality, greater capacity to deal with situations. That's what Yamantaka is. So it's the Dalai Lama or all the other great lamas that we have, around, and even people that aren't, Buddhist, they can have that realization. So that's the outside world. Within you, because you have Dharmakaya, because you have a Buddha nature, your soul, or whatever you want to call it, it is connected to the universe around you, but you could say a lot of things are dormant. So when you do the retreat of Yamantaka, because it's from your side, you are ripening those seeds within you, and also then you're getting connected with all of the people that have Yamantaka realization in the outside world, because this is lineage. I mean, I spent 14 years in India. I received the initiation multiple times. I did multiple retreats. So we have lineage. So it's not like you're sort of like going on WhatsApp and you don't have any contacts. No, you have me as a contact, and within that, then you have all of my my contacts within me, within my thing. So sort of a way to think about it, let's say more modern terms. So again, don't try to be too overly intellectual about it. Just follow what the sadhana says as best as you can. And then, you might sort of get little understandings from some of the wording of the sadhana, and basically do the retreat. And that's for Yamantaka. The big thing, of course, is that you are a bodhisattva, that you're trying to become, have a more meaningful life. And not just meaningful life for yourself, but meaningful for the people in your life. So just some basic concept or basic ideas for when you start this retreat. Okay. Now, there was, okay, I guess this is, do you have some the questions? Are you the owner of the questions?
Well, there were some issues that arose. I already sent you an email about them.
Yeah, so I mean, you only have to bless them all at one time. Well, I can't remember the other questions were. Or did you share that with the other people?
Yes, I did. I did share the answers. Actually, there was also the issue about including a praise of you in the initial part of the sadhana, like we did with Chittamanitara sadhana.
Yes.
And I also sent you a
Yeah, I pulled it
praise
up.
for the inner offering that was written by a fellow member of ours, by Philip. And I was wondering whether you find this appropriate, perhaps not to include it for the retreat sadhana, but perhaps for individual practice to include this small praise that Philip wrote for the inner offerings.
Yeah, that sounds fine. I wouldn't say that whether I'm and the showing the path and lands of the east and the west. I don't know. I mean, I don't know in India that I do anything, but so in the lands of the west, that would be the only edit on that. No, I mean it's what's really important with So, okay, so yes, what you wrote there sounds fine. What's important is that we're part of a greater lineage, so it's not just Jampa. I mean, there's Lama Glen, and there's, the Dalai Lama and all these great lamas. I mean, we're all part of a great tradition. And so therefore, I mean, hopefully all of our teachers do well, live a good life, and then finally pass on, and with no scandals. And so therefore, we have a sense of stability in our practice. I mean, there's nothing more depressing than to have a teacher suddenly have a scandal. So anyway, so yes, the way what you did there was just fine. Okay, so that's good. Now, so for the sessions, did the first session of the morning is from the beginning all the way up to the mantras, everything. Second session, you start off with what's called the main practice. So you skip all the preliminaries and Vajrasattva and all of that. So you start up with that, and then you skip the big protection wheel. You do the shorter version, and if you wanted to do the mantra there, you could. So you do the abbreviated version of sending the 10 wrathful ones around you, and then there's the spinning swords. But having done that, then if you wanted to, you could do the Om Namah Samantha Buddha Namah Samantha Namah Namah Samantha Sangha Namah Sitcha blah blah blah. You could do that like 3 times just if you wanted to. Then you go into the sadhana. Most of it, the rest of it's pretty straightforward. You could drop to the shorter praise of Yamantaka rather than the long one when you get close to the mantras. Of course, you skip to blessing the mala, and you also do the abbreviated blessings to the lamas. So you do, to the root guru is the essence of all the teachings of the 84 branches of the Dharma Oma home, to the lineage gurus, and then you could do to myself. Then you go down to the gurus of lineage, Yamantaka, protectors and such. But you do the abbreviated version, the long one. Then, as I said, you could do the shorter praise. The long praise is sort of nice to at least do it a couple times. It's because it's got lots of information about Yamantaka. So you build up this sort of sense of, yes, I'm Yamantaka, so that's good. Then you start the mantras again. I think I explained, but just to double check. For example, you're going to start with Arabhazanadi. So you would do, let's say if you're in the retreat, you would do Arabhazanadi however many times you want to, and each one of you is individual. I mean, one of you might do 600 or 700, one of you might do 1,000. That doesn't matter. Each one of you is individual. What you often have is just a little piece of paper. Okay, what I do is I often have 2 malas. So this is a right hand tantra. This is the one that's going Om Arabhazanadi. This hand has a mala, but that's for 1 mala, 2 malas. So that's like 108, 216, 324, like that. So this one counts the hundreds. This one counts individuals. That way, you don't have to move around a lot. You just sort of going 100, 200, 300. That's the way I like to do it, because I want as little busyness when I'm trying to focus on the mantras and the meditations and things like that. So you do Arabhazanadi, let's say 600 or 700 times. If that's the end of the session, then you do 2 or 3 Yamaraja, 2 or 3 Om Hri Shri, 2 or 3 Yamantaka Ompe, and then you will at that point then you do Vajrasattva mantra, make offerings to yourself, and then just basically, you can do the dissolution. You sort of shut the sadhana down. You don't have to do all the praises and the things at the end. Then the second session you start off, at that middle point where I said, the real practice. You invoke Yamantaka. Again, you do the abbreviated protection wheel, et cetera, et cetera. And so let's say you finished Arabhazanadi, then you do 3 Arabhazanadi, and then you do Yamaraja for 100 or 200 or 300. That one to do 10,000 takes about 7 days. It's quite a long mantra. It takes a lot longer. Then you shift over, you do 3 Shri Shri, and then you do 3 Yamantaka Ompe, and then you do the thing. Okay, then when you finish the Yamaraja, then you do 3 Arabhazanadi, 3 Yamaraja, and you do however many hundreds of Shri Shri you can. Okay, so I just want to make sure you got that clear. And I don't, the end of, for example, you're going to do 4 or 5 sessions. At the end of the first morning session, when you finish the mantras, you have the way to sort of conclude that. I don't know if I explained that. Maybe somebody already explained it. Can someone answer me?
Please repeat.
I said that when you conclude, let's say in your first session or the second, third, and fourth, when you conclude doing the mantras, do you know how to do the abbreviated ending? Yes or no?
I don't think so. What we were doing was just finishing that sort of page. So you do the offerings to Yamantaka, do the Om Yamantaka Hum Ped Om Ahum, and then the praise to Yamantaka. But I think you said that we should do dissolution as well at that point.
Yeah, so you jump all the way up to dissolution and the dedication, but again, all abbreviated. So only in the very last session, when you finish that, so you got 1, 2, 3, 4 sessions. On the fifth session, the last session of the day, then from the mantras to the very end, you do everything except that you could abbreviate the let's say the auspicious prayers and the thing, like if you wanted to. So that's your choice. So yeah, that's just so you got the ending correct. So
I just want to make sure that I understood correctly. We do perform the dissolution in every session, at the end of every session.
yeah, you do. Okay, yeah, but you jump from the mantras and the praise to Yamantaka, yourself, the deity, you jump from there all the way up to dissolution in the first 4 sessions. And the last session, when you finish the mantras, you do it all the way up to the end, everything, except you can abbreviate the longer praise and the longer auspicious prayers if you want to. It's your choice, you know.
Understood.
Okay, good. So that's about it. That's fine. Again, don't you know, if you have, okay, Jonas, yes.
Yes, I had a question about ending the sessions, which I wrote to you before, that when we are on the first to the fourth session and we are reciting mantras as a group, and then it's time to end the session, what would be ways of ending the session that are considerate with others? Like someone might be at the middle of a mala or something like that.
Okay, well, okay, so a good question. Okay, so generally, let's say I would say when you're doing a retreat, you should try to do at least an hour and a half. Okay, I mean that would be a reasonable length of time for each of the sessions. So let's just say that you know you in the first session it takes about 40 to 45 minutes to do all the recitation. Then you have 45 minutes to get an hour and a half of mantras. In the second session, it takes about 25 minutes to do the recitations, and then you have what is it, an hour and 5 minutes worth of mantras that you can do. Okay, so that's the sort of normal. You guys can adjust that a little bit. Now, when you get to the let's say to the hour and a half point, if you wanted to have a timer, maybe you put a timer on your cell phone or something. So when you start, you put the timer for an hour and a half. One of you has on your cell phone. Then at the end of the hour and a half, when the cell phone goes off, you just turn that off. Now, you don't have to, as a group, do the concluding prayers together. You could do them individually, just quietly to yourself, because it's basically just the Yamantaka. You know, you do quietly, and then you do the dissolution, and then you appear back as Yamantaka Om Home, and then I dedicate this to becoming more enlightened. You can do that quietly. If you are all on the same page, you say 1.5 hour and a half is this fine for me right now, then you could do as a group the concluding prayers together, but those are your choices at the end. At the beginning, from the start of the sadhana up to the mantras, you should do it all together, out loud, in a loud voice. I become Yamantaka, Om Risha Rishitana Hompe, and etc. All of that, you do that together, okay? Because it's accumulation of karma, verbal karma. The conclusions you can do more privately or quietly. As you get into the first or second week, one of you might be wanting to be having a nice experience, and you don't want to quit it. Why would you want to stop this nice experience? It's because an hour and a half is up. So what you do is you just sit there. Maybe some other people quietly do their concluding prayers. You don't. You carry on with your meditation, doing your mantra, whatever it was that you were doing. Maybe you go for an hour and 40 minutes or 50 minutes or 2 hours. That's your choice. So that way the conclusion of sessions 1, 2, 3, and 4 are a little bit open. The conclusion of the 5th session, generally I would say you should do that together, because it is sort of a group thing. You're invoking Yamantaka in front of you, you're making offerings to him, you're making offerings to the directional protectors, you're making offerings to Kalarupa. So that is a group event, I think would be a little more important. So sessions 1 through 4, like 1 through 4, include them quietly to yourself. And at whatever time you wish to, basically at 1 hour and a half or whatever. The 5th session, at the hour and a half point, or an hour and 20 minutes if you want, all of you as a group do the concluding prayers, okay? One of you maybe should be the prayer leader. So one of you is the one that says, you know, Namo Guru Vajra Bhairava, O Senor Man, you know, whatever the prayer. So they sort of are the chant leader, okay? When you get to the 8 visions of time of death, your chant leader can be the one that basically could touch on the things. I mean, there's the earth element going down. Everybody meditates for a minute or so. Water element, meditate for a minute or two. Or fire element, like that. So you do them step by step. That would be where one of you is the designated leader for that. And then certainly for the end, when you get to session number 5, then that chant leader, then they would just do the mantra out loud a little bit more hey, everybody, we're going to stop now. Okay, and so then you do the concluding prayers. Okay, so you still have 2 more Saturday proximate retreats to sort of play with, and you can get familiar with how to do it. So if there's any more questions, just get back to me and I'll try to help you organize it. But that sounds good. Great. I'm very proud of you guys. You're doing great.
Thank you, Lama Jamba.
Okay, Jonas, did that answered your question? Yes.
Thank you. That was a very good answer. I have a less important question also about the kusha grass under our seat. What can we use in Sweden if we don't have kusha grass?
Well, it depends. If you have an Indian grocery store in your area, they'll have often a kusha grass broom. But here in Mexico, we don't have any East Indians, so we don't have any East Indian grocery stores. So I took a standard broom, a corn broom, like one with not a plastic broom, a proper corn. It was called corn broom here, and I just cut off the straight parts of the broom, not where the broom comes up and then it curves in and goes to the handle. So the straighter parts, I just cut those, and you put them so that they're pointing towards the center, like only maybe 5 or 6 of them. So I use corn broom nowadays because it has the same quality. The kusha grass is considered very straight, and it's supposed to represent your nerve channels, your chakras in your body, that they're very straight and clean, because it's also something for cleaning. Okay, and so you put those underneath your seat, and they point towards the middle, because it's to represent that you are focused and all your nerves are lined up nicely. Okay, the corn broom, the parts that are straight are similar. They're nice and straight. So basically they qualify. And the same thing, they're for cleaning. So it's representative that your chakras and nerve channels within your body are straight and clean. That's why you put the grass pointing towards the center. And this is pointed towards the center because that's the sort of vortex that you're creating in your meditation. Okay, the sort of energy center. Okay. If you don't find any corn broom or something or whatever, don't worry. You don't strictly speaking need it. It's if you have it available, you use it. Okay. The one other thing you put underneath your seat is a swastika. What you should do is Google it to get the right direction, because I believe that the Nazi swastika goes in this direction and the Hindu swastika goes in this direction. Again, I can never remember which one's which, so I just go on Google and I say Hindu swastika, and it gives you the way to sort of put it. Okay, so you have the clean floor, your kusha grass or your corn broom pointing towards the middle. On top of that, you put the swastika, which is to go for long life. And on top of that, you put the bigger cushion, the flatter cushion, and you do not move that for the whole retreat. That bigger cushion stays there. Now, on top of that, you can have little cushions for your bum or for your knees, or as we said, as long as you don't step off your cushion, you can put a chair on top of that flatter cushion and sit in a chair if you needed to. All of those things are possible, but the bigger cushion does not move, okay? It's sort of like your landing pad or your launching pad for your meditations.
I also sent you a question in regards of the reality source. I'm going to read it again.
Okay.
Can you expand upon the visualization of the reality source and its relation to the generation of the immeasurable palace? And as a side question, why do the Tibetans relate Dharma Dhatu with the upside down tetrahedron?
Okay. The point of that is it's an upside down reality source. So the point down here at this end is very small, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger until it arrives at a triangle up here flat, okay? That represents that from beginningless samsara at the very bottom, which is sort of like way down below, you've been slowly expanding your qualities as a bodhisattva or as a practitioner. So when you arrive at the top of the reality source, but still inside of it, you then create the mandala. That's where you're becoming enlightened. So you could say, coming from nothing, the lower point of the reality source, you increase your qualities till finally you are enlightened, which is the lotus bud inside of the reality source, okay, at the top. So it represents, it's called a reality source because it's your mind. Your mind is the creator of your reality, number one. Two, it represents your growth from nothing up until your attainment of becoming, Buddha, whether it's Yamantaka, Vajrayogini, or any Buddha that you happen to become. It's inside the reality source, and it's inside of a lotus bud. Okay, so that's the second thing. The third thing, it represents the womb of a woman. And so you could say it's like the matrice, the womb. And so when you take birth, from the semen and the ovum coming together, that's inside the womb, and that's where then the baby grows. So the same thing is said to represent the womb of a mother, and that's where you're going. That's where you have your gestation to grow up and to become a human. So in this case, it's through your gestation where you become the deity, whatever deity you happen to be focused on. Okay. This is that. One of my students is very good at graphics. So inside of the reality source is a lotus like this. It's closed. Okay. Inside of it. Oh, there. This side. Inside of it is the mandala. Here. So that inside of it's the mandala, then you are inside of that is Yamantaka. Okay, so inside of the top of the reality source is this lotus. Like that. Okay, closed. Then if it was to be like to show you what's going on inside, you open it, and inside is your mandala. Okay, this is the eastern side, it's white. And inside there is is yourself as Yamantaka. Now, you do not need to be too concerned about all the details. Remember, I told you I want 4 or 5 years of your life. And over 4 or 5 years, you can become familiar with mandalas and all of the details. But at this point, it would just be too much, and you lose the retreat because of being all caught up with things. So all you have to do I'm inside the reality source. The reality source is me. I'm the creator. My mind is the creator of my situation. I am in a bud of a lotus, and inside of that, then I am the mandala, and inside of that, I am me, the Yamantaka. But what you would do emotionally is to say, I'm centered. I'm in the center of my universe. I am centered, and I'm inside my mandala, which is my palace of my consciousness. And then I'm inside of a bud, inside of reality, inside the womb of reality. And then I'm inside my protection wheels, and then like that. So the emotion you want primarily is that I'm centered, I'm not distracted. This is the doorway to the universe. This is the doorway to my center of being, my center of my consciousness. Okay, so that's the simple way to do it. You don't need to be over elaborate. After some time, you study a little bit, you get some nice graphic imagery or something, and you start to get a little better idea. So when you do your meditation, you can say, okay, I'm inside my mandala. In front of me is white, yellow, red, green, and the center is blue. The walls are like glass, so I could actually see through them. All that's details that you get, after some years of practice and being familiar. I think I told you I'm doing the Guya Samaja retreat right now. I'm on my 10th day, I think, at this particular point. I'm doing 2 sessions every day, one in the morning and one in the afternoon, and such. And what I find it's really interesting, because it is a very elaborate tantra, is that because I have all those years of experience, suddenly it's going, oh, a little bit clarity here, a little bit clarity there. So it's quite nice. But again, that's, I would highly recommend that if you're going to do Guya Samaja, you do it at least after 5 or 8 years worth of Dharma practice of Tantra, so that when you do it, it doesn't overwhelm you, because it's got, like I say, it takes me 1 hour and 10 minutes just to do the recitation, not even getting to mantras yet. That's an awful lot of work. Even I get a little bit bored about it, but thing is, I want to do it. I want to be able to do the proper initiation. So you guys are lucky. You only have to do for what, 30, 40 minutes in the morning and like that. So don't think that this is too much to ask of you, okay? All right, anyway, so that's just some ideas and some thoughts about reality source. The reality source it's your mind. Your mind is the source of reality. And then it's at the top because it represents your final arrival at becoming enlightened. So it's not halfway down the reality source, you're at the top of the reality source, but inside of it. And then inside of that reality source, you have your sacred space, which is your mandala, and you as Yamantaka. Okay.
Thank you, Lama Jamba. That was very informative. I have to comment on what you said about 5 years of our lives. Initially, you said you need 3. Now it's 5. I'm afraid the number is going to increase as time passes.
Actually, I want the rest of your life and all future lives.
Amazing. Well, I do have a couple of other questions to ask if you have the time.
Sure.
Can you expand upon briefly on the pure characteristics during the recollection of the mandala? And also, as a side question, I'm just interested to know whether the 8 powers that are mentioned during the recollection are descriptions of literal powers like levitation and so forth, or are they symbolical, or both?
Okay. The characteristics of the mandala and of the deity are details. So remember at the very beginning, I said, don't be too focused on the details. So you can read the characteristics of the mandala and what it represents. Just sort of lightly have it in your mind, but don't overemphasize it because it's a distraction. But yeah, the mandala represents you. The physical building is to represent your body, your feelings, your perceptions, your ideas, and your consciousness. So the mandala represents you personified in a building, but it's perfectly balanced. It's symmetrical, so it's perfectly balanced. So that represents you in consciousness, perfectly balanced. Then in the center, you become Yamantaka, and that is consciousness. That's the central part. You as Yamantaka consciousness, but it's again you within your 5 aggregates, the total of your being, who you are. From the Buddhist point of view, okay? 5 aggregates are the way Buddhism talks about you as a person. Okay, form, feeling, perceptions, thoughts, and consciousness. Okay, so that's just to just put it that way. That okay, if I was to personify me as a building, perfect symmetry, the building. And then the colors and stuff represent the different components of what makes me the totality of who I am. So that's the mandala. That's a simple version. That's what you should stick with at the beginning. Don't get too caught up in the details, okay? Now, as for the 8 powers, and I think I forget the animals and the human, humans and such under your feet, they are meditative powers. So yes, they are real things. Now, some of them refer to let's see, you have to study Abhidharma, so there's a lot more there, and it'll give you a description of the 8 powers, and it'll give you the description of the I think I forget what the other things are called, abilities or something. Anyway, it gives you all the details, but again, that's getting really intellectual about it. If you wanted to focus on something, focus on the 34 arms. Like, for example, like you have a curved knife and a skull cup. What's that represent? Well, this is all in my video commentary, but the curved knife, it's got a curve and a hook. So it's a knife that is used by a butcher when he's butchering animals. Okay, so it's symbolic, but what it represents is the little hook part is when you put it in the stomach and you pull up and you cut open the stomach, like so all the intestines and the internal organs. Then the curved part of the blade is where you scoop out all of those things from inside, so that then you end up with just, you know, the meat, the bones and stuff with all the intestines taken out. That represents you gutting samsara. So if you were to think of it like I'm a meditator, I take the curved knife and I put it in the stomach of samsara and I pull it across, all the guts of samsara come out. And then the next thing is sort of scoops them into what? Into the skull cup. Yamantaka scoops up all of the blood and the things in the skull cup. Okay, so he guts samsara, he scoops up all the intestines and he drinks it. Meaning is that he can consume reality. He can consume samsara. He has no problems gutting samsara and drinking it, consuming it. Okay, then like the 4 fangs represent the 4 appointed powers, that I have the ability to say, gee, I wish I hadn't done that. I'm going to be inspired to go somewhere with myself. I've got a purification practice, in this case Yamantaka, and I dedicate myself to becoming more enlightened. That's the 4 fangs of Yamantaka. It's all symbolic, and it's something that you can hold as you do your mantras and meditations. So you have this sense of power and intensity. Okay, then there's the curved knife, is again cuts open samsara. There's a bow and an arrow in his hand, which represent penetrating reality. There's a little drum down on the right hand side, which represents bliss and void. There's a sword, which represents wisdom. Then there's a katbanga, which represents that he has the haruka techniques. There's a skull cup full of intestines over here, which represents he has Guya Samaja techniques. All of that stuff, that is something to be more aware of. The implements in the hands and a little bit the meaning. So in your retreat, if you were to read that section, that would be beneficial, you know, or if you have commentaries on it. Because that's sort of, and when you do your identification, you're telling yourself something. I can gut reality. I can skewer reality. I can generate bliss and void. Things like that. This is little stuff, but it's all meaningful for you. As your consciousness becomes more stable, you can hold those things in consciousness. You know, so those would be more beneficial to be slightly focused on in the time of the retreat. Okay. As time passes, you can study things that you do need to study a lot more Buddhism. So you'd have to study Abhidharma, and you could get the 8 powers and the 8 abilities and the other things. And there's 16 types of voidness. Even I don't know what the 16 types of voidness are, but they're voidness of self, voidness of other, voidness of up, voidness of down. There's 16 versions of it. That's what the 16 legs stand for. Again, you don't need to know all the details. You have a general sense of, I'm Yamantaka, I'm on 16 legs, I'm really stable. No one's going to push me over. I have 34 arms. I've got lots of capacity on dealing with my samsara. I have 4 very sharp fangs that I can bite into any delusion and completely tear it apart. I have the 2 horns, which are the 2 natures which penetrate realities, relative reality, ultimate reality. I can skewer reality with my 2 horns. Well, that's the sort of stuff that you want to meditate on as you're doing the retreat, so you get this really strong sense of, I have capacity. I'm not pathetic. I'm not weak. I'm Yamantaka. I am the Lord of death. I'm the Lord who defeats death. Those are very, very powerful thoughts. Okay, but it's not just idealistic. There's a yoga system here in states of consciousness and states of experience. So it's not just sort of some fanciful idea. You're in a yoga technique. Now, you build up stability in being the deity, and I'm working for the benefit of myself and all sentient beings. I'm a nice guy. I'm good Yamantaka, but I'm powerful. Don't mess with me. That's the first part. Then later you shift over to doing all of the completion stage practices because they're power. And when you want to have a stable personality, when you start working with the completion state practices, because they're power. And if you don't have stability in your personality and you start getting power, then you end up being neurotic. Basically, that's the bottom line. I mean, you end up having to go on Prozac because you can't handle all the energy you have. Okay, so it's a very real practice that you're involved in. It can bring real results. And you guys are going to have fun. You're doing the first of Yamantaka. It's a power retreat. That's really, really special, you know. So you build that up and then continue with your practice. So, I mean, so come back over to this. It's, I'm sorry, give me the rest of your life. Okay. So there you go. There, that sort of gives you a nice, nice sense of the Tantra. I'll send you the video of this so you can watch it at a later date if you want to or something like that.
Thank you.
Okay, Jonas asked a question.
Yes, two questions. First, if we want to keep in mind these 34 implements and so forth, is that something we read during the break? And during the session, we try to forget all concepts and just read the text. And during the mantra recitation, we're just focusing on the mantras. And during the break, we can read something and then like not try to be conceptual about these things.
Yeah, a little bit of both. You know, like read a little bit of the commentaries, get a feeling. Then when you go to the sadhana, try to take the feeling and understanding and bring it into the sadhana. Then read a little bit about maybe the, you know, the curved knife. You know, just think and then think about like what would that mean? And I can gut reality, okay, and then I can scoop it up and drink it, okay. You know, look at that. And then you're when you're doing your mantras, meditate a little bit on that. Like that. So a little bit of the both, yeah. So you're remember you're beginners. You're getting familiarity, and in one way, really, it's what's really deep in your heart. You're giving that an opportunity to mature. The seeds of your own enlightenment can be matured by your understanding. So remember, all of the symbolism represents an understanding, a capacity. So that way that you get it, you're building up that. I mean, basically, you know, you become a very capable, nice person. Yeah.
That's very nice.
A little bit of both. Study a little bit, read
Yeah.
a little bit, try to incorporate it in your meditation. In your meditation, if you get lost, then just recite the mantras. You know, I mean, it's hard work. I mean, in some of the sessions, you're going to have a good time and you're going to, wow, it's just so vivid. And the next session is like, shit, I'm just so fucking tired and I can't do a damn thing. And I'm just really miserable and I want to go home. That's one session. Then the next session, wow, I got a really good sensation. And the next session, nothing, you know. That's life, you know.
Actually, I have
Thank
a
you.
question in regards to the cessation part. I have noticed for some reason so far, the action mantra, Om Kristri Vikitanana Humpe, it does not produce as much feeling as the rest of the Yamantaka mantras. And I'm just wondering, is there a logical explanation for this?
No. You will, each mantra has a flavor, okay?
Yeah.
So Arabhasnati is sharp-mindedness, like you're brilliant, you're sharp. Yamaraja is power. So I like to think of it as like a great big bulldozer that just moves 5 tons of dirt. That's Yamaraja mantra because it's power. It's the Ya, Om Yamaraja, Satome Ya. All the Yas represent Chi or Lung. So in the Yamaraja mantra, you're doing the Ya mantra, which is the generation of energy. So it's like creating a lot of energy in your body. Okay? So it's like a big bulldozer. It can move a lot of dirt. Okay. Hri Shri it's I don't know, it's just very sharp. It's different than Arabasnati is sharp. Sri Sri is sort of like brutal sharp. It's got that sort of quality to it. Yamantaka Hompe is primordial. Yamantaka Hompe, that's just like, that's death, Yamantaka Hompe. Yama is death, Taka is the destroyer. Yamantaka, destroyer death. That's primal. So if you have 4 mantras, each one has a flavor, I guess crispness or sharp, power, ability in a very brutal way, and then primal. Okay, so that's the way you can look at the mantras. And again, you're going to recite our Sri Sri 100,000 times. Somewhere in there, you're going to get a feeling for it. And then those become they become tools you can use in your daily activity. So let's say something really, really bad is happening. You can go to Sri Sri. Maybe it's sort of a time when you need to be peaceful, Yamantaka. Maybe you need to have a lot of energy because you're at the gym and you're going to press 200 kilos. Oh, Yamaraja. I mean, so this, it's, each mantra has a time when it can be invoked and used. Why? Because you're making your life useful. You're being beneficial in situations. You are not pathetic. You are not weak. You are Yamantaka. Okay. Yes, Jonas.
Yes, thank you. I wanted to ask about the mantra recitation during the sessions. When we are reciting the mantra for, let's say, 1 hour, then do we try to keep our mind on the visualization? And when it wanders, we bring it back to only the visualization that you have described earlier of the stream of Yamantakas and so forth? Or
Okay.
would we be like...
Yes. All the above. Yes. No. Okay. When I was doing retreats, my teacher was Geshe Rapton. He was a great yogi. He lived in the mountains most of his life and stuff. Incredible practitioner. He said this. He said, when you're doing a retreat, you can shift it around to make it that it's useful for you. So sometimes you just focus on the mantra. Now, generally for the 3 mantras, Yamaraja, Sri Sri, and Yamantaka Hompe, from the disc in your heart, you feel a little stream of Yamantakas come up. They come out your right nostril. They work for the benefit of sentient beings. And then they come back in the left nostril and they come back down in your heart. Now, what you want to end up with is a sensation of, on the right side, there's sort of a stream of little Yamantakas going out. And at the same moment, on the left side, there's a stream of Yamantakas coming back into your heart. So it's sort of going out, coming in. And you try to get that happening at the same time. And of course, you should think that Yamantaka has really big nostrils with fire coming out of them. That's cleaning your left and right channels. Okay, that visualization of having those 2 very powerful nostrils with flames, but in this case, you're also we're sending out and receiving Yamantakas at the same time. Okay, so that's the general visualization of the mantra recitations, and those Yamantakas are all working for the benefit of all sentient beings. Okay, now another thing you can do though is shift over just to the hum syllable. And although you're reciting the mantra, you feel that you are in your heart, you're not up in your head anymore. You're inside of the hollow body of Yamantaka, and I am the hum syllable, and I'm vibrating, and I'm sending out and receiving Yamantaka. So you do that. Then let's say you get tired. Well, then you can sit down and meditate. Well, I have a precious human rebirth. I'm really lucky. I met with a really good spiritual practice. I've got opportunity. I've got teachings. I've got lineage. Oh, I'm really lucky, Or then you can meditate on impermanence, like death is definite, time is indefinite, nothing helps at the time of death, and such. And so what's important? You can meditate on those. So my teacher told me, he said, as you're reciting the mantra, you could think about the graduated path to enlightenment, impermanence or refuge or karma and stuff like that. You can do that, okay? Because you're going to be doing this retreat potentially for a month. That's a lot of time. So you have a lot of time to cultivate yourself. So, okay, so in answer to you, Sometimes you focus on the visualization. Sometimes you just focus on being Yamantaka inside your mandala, and you just sort of make that familiar. Then you can shift over to sending out and receiving Yamantakas. Then you can shift over to this being the hum syllable emitting light in all directions. Then you can shift over to I'm meditating on the graduated path to enlightenment. You know, over a month, you're going to do, well, every day 5 sessions for 30. That's 150 sessions of meditation. You have lots of opportunity. Okay, so Jonas, yeah, and sometimes, okay, now I explained that if in doing this retreat, you start having some stress or maybe the pain in your heart because it's too much energy, then you can sit there and you recite the mantras, but you just totally relax. This, okay, I'm not going to visualize, I'm not going to think about anything because I'm really stressed out. I've got, you know, really some painful energy running in my heart, you know, or something like that, because you've got too much energy. Okay, then you just don't know, Margaret's not. And so you totally relax. So it's, again, it's like the example of a car with the gas pedal. You know, sometimes you can accelerate, sometimes you can take your foot off, sometimes you need to brake a little bit. So like that, you're the one that has to work with yourself. Now remember, I'm going to check in on you guys at least once a week, and then you can share your questions and thoughts and problems and issues. And also, I mean, if there's a big thing that comes up, you just send me an email and I'll try to respond. So I'll be available for you. Okay, so good.
Thank you very much. That was a very good answer. And I right now feel very, what's the word in English? Confident in this retreat. I think it will be very nice.
Good.
And without your guidance,
Be amazing.
Maybe not so much, but I feel like we have a lot of support. We have good motivation, and we will do very beautiful things.
Good.
So thank you very much.
Any other questions or thoughts or commentaries?
Did you say that we can emanate Yamantakas for all mantras? Because I thought that we were doing this only the Om Yamantaka Hum Pet.
No, you do it with the 3, with the Arabhasanati mantra, you have spinning swords and such. I mean, I think you have a graphic for that. For the other 3 mantras, you have 3 rings. The big ring is Yamaraja, inside that Shri, inside of that Yamantaka, in the middle is Hum. And in all 3 of those, you could do a variety of things like I just explained, but the main one is sending out and pulling back Yamantakas on all 3 of those, okay?
Understood.
Sure, that's what I say. You're going to do this retreat, and then later maybe you do another one after a year or 2, and you go, oh, I completely made this mistake here. I made a mistake here. Doesn't matter. It's okay. Making mistakes is all right. You know, we get better as time passes.
I was reading on the Road of Thunder about the Vajra Vetali and the 13 deity practice, and I was wondering if one wants to be complete with his Yamantaka practice, is the 13 deity empowerment necessary, or it is just an add-on?
No, you better to shift over to Haruka or to Vajrayogini or something like that. You know, no, the 13 deity practice is very good. It's quite elaborate, but no, your Yamantaka, this is called the solitary hero is all you need as a basic Yamantaka practice. The 13 deity it's elaborate, but it's not necessary. You can shift to Haruka from there.
Understood. I have one final question from the general Sangha. It just came up in the online chat, and I think this is a good opportunity. So a person asked whether there is significance during a Guru Yoga sessions in regards to the color of the consort of Vajradhara.
Normally she's the same color. So if he's blue, she's blue. If he's white, she's white. Whatever color the Lord is, the consort's automatically that color.
And is it significant? Because some people, they might want to change the color. That's why this issue came up.
There are shifts in color, but it more refers to, you know, well, you say, like if it depends on the 5 Buddha families. So if it's a Shkobi, it's blue. If it's Ratnasambhava, it's gold or yellow. If it's Amitabha, it's red. And then those ones would refer to different things. For example, Ashkobi refers to purifying anger, Ratnasambhava to miserliness, Amitabha for desire, like that. So yeah, there could be meaning in that. I would not think that that could apply right now for this retreat, but down the road it could. I mean, there are sadhanas and practices which do focus on those things. For example, Guhya Samaja has a lot around that, what you just asked, with the different colored consorts, different colored main deity and all of that, yes. But it's a very elaborate tantra. Okay. Okay, if everyone's good, I have recorded this and I will send it to, but this is for you guys to be able to watch at your own time. I mean, if you bring it, put it on your cell phone and then you can watch it when you're in the retreat for, like I gave you some commentaries about doing the retreat, so that might be sort of useful for you. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Today
Always.
is what, the 15th, then the 22nd or 23rd or 24th, somewhere next week. If you want, we can do another meeting on Friday. No, next Thursday, Friday, I'm not available. Sorry, so it's not, but maybe just before you start the retreat in October, we should have one more session just to cover any questions and such. Okay, so from now until the 1st of October, we'll have one more session. Okay. And of course, if you have personal questions or whatever, just write me an email.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so I'll stop the recording.